Welcome back to another episode of Fox Sports Lab NRL. We are in the third week of the finals. Josh Morris is alongside me. As always, Josh, it's great to have your company. There are just 2 games left, and this is for a spot in the grand final. How are you feeling about these matchups?
Yeah, I've played in a couple of prelim finals, and it's heartbreaking when you don't win that one, and you just want to be in the big dance come the following week. So for both these teams, they'll be very excited, and once you win one of these games, it's a relief that you finally get to play in a grand final. But the Warriors, they were good on the weekend against the Knights, and the Storm, well, they just got home in a tight one against the Roosters. So 2 teams have had the week off. They'll be ready and raring to go for this week, no doubt.
Any surprises for you that the last 4 teams that are left in the competition are the top 4 that finished way back at the end of round 27?
Yeah, not really. I think the way that these 4 teams have gone about their business, they probably have been the top 4 sides. The Roosters, look, they made a late charge, as did the Knights. The Roosters were probably a little bit unlucky in that game, come down to the final minute there, and Will Warbrick came up with a perler to get them the victory. But, yeah, I think the Warriors and the Storm, 3 and 4, they've justified their position in this prelim finals.
Well, let's start with the Panthers taking on the Storm. Panthers are $1.18, Storm $4.85. Are you surprised by that sort of, I suppose, the big gap between those 2 teams? I mean, Penrith are at home, but do you think that is favouring the Panthers quite a lot?
Yeah, it's very short, but I guess that's the way they are the favourites. They have been all year, and they showed in the first week of the finals that they're going to be very, very hard to beat. For the Storm, they've had to win some pretty tight games. Just on the weekend, I thought during stages of that match, they really looked like their petrol had been zapped. Started Harry Grant on the bench as well. I guess for blokes like Munster and Grant, they've had a full Origin series, which was really tough, and then they've had to back it up with playing football week in, week out. I just feel like they look like they're a little bit tired coming into this match. They have Jerome Hughes with an injury cloud around his calf. Now, we saw the Roosters roll the dice with Joey Manu in that first semi, and it didn't work out for them. The similar thing could happen to Hughes. We know that calves are very dodgy, and they can go whenever. But I like the fact that he started Big Nelson. He said to Nelson that you're going to be starting, and if Luai is playing, well, then he's going to have to be prepared to make some big tackles on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is headlined by the fact that they've got 2 halves in Jerome Hughes, Jerome Luai, racing the clock to be fit for this contest. Jerome Luai is set to be put through his paces today and get someone like a Moses Leota running at him, whereas Nelson Asofa-Solomona will be running at Jerome Hughes, no doubt, and hopefully they can both make it out there on the park come the weekend. What did you make this week of seeing some of the Storm players wearing what looked to be sort of fake Penrith jerseys in that training session?
Oh, look, they do it well. The Storm, they have been renowned for putting a head on a platter of players they want to target, and no doubt they've got a few that they think are key to winning the game. If they shut those players down, no doubt they'll probably be a Cleary. But I dare say in the forwards they'll want to match it up against James Fisher-Harris and Moses Leota as well. And if they can get on top of them, well, they can really halt Penrith's momentum. So I think that's what probably happened down at training there.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's move on to the next game with the Broncos hosting the Warriors. Broncos are $1.26. The Warriors are $3.90. Obviously up there at Suncorp Stadium is an advantage to the Warriors, but let's not forget, advantage to the Broncos, but let's not forget the Warriors during COVID spent so much of their time up in Queensland. You would think that there would be a number of fans out there at Suncorp cheering them on too.
Yeah, look, I think the Warriors have got a big following up in Queensland, and no doubt their fans will be there and they'll be loud. We won't see the scenes that we saw last week over in New Zealand. That was absolutely incredible. The nation has got right behind the Warriors, and so they should. They've played outstanding football all year. The coach spoke this weekend saying they're not scared of the Broncos. They don't fear them, and if they fear them, well, then they've already given up and they'll lose. So they'll go over there and want to prove a point, and I think this will be a very entertaining game. I think Reece Walsh is primed to have a big one. He spent some time at the Warriors also, so he knows a fair bit about that club and some of the players there. But I'm really interested in the forwards matchup. If the Warriors can go toe to toe with the Broncos forwards, they'll be in with a chance. But if the likes of Haas and Carrigan and Flegler, if they roll over them early, well, I think it can be a big Broncos victory.
We talk about finals being a different ball game at this time of year. The Broncos have won 9 of 15 games against the Warriors at Suncorp Stadium, and they've won just 4 of their last 10 matches against the Warriors. Do you read into that at all?
No, I don't read into that at all. I think Adam Reynolds wasn't there for a lot of those games. So him at this time of year, we saw in the first final that he played how instrumental he was, and just what he does for the team as well. He brings that calmness. He gets them around the park and everyone knows their role. And I think he's a big reason as to why the Broncos will go so deep into these finals.
What about Sean Johnson and the man of the match performance he put out there last week? What does he do this week?
Yeah, he needs the same thing. He needs to run the ball. He needs to threaten the line. We've seen him out the back of shapes and the damage that he can create. But he also needs to get his kicking game right. Adam Reynolds has one of the best kicking games in the comp. Sean Johnson has got a big boot as well, but he's got some finesse around his kicking game as well. So he needs to run the ball and kick well, and he'll give the Warriors every chance of winning that game.
He was instrumental last week against the Knights. Let's talk about the Knights season. They were down and out after that game over across the ditch. What did you make of their season? Obviously, to win 10 in a row was remarkable. What sort of pass or fail mark do you give them, and where do you think they can improve for 2024?
Oh, look, I give the Knights a massive pass mark as to where they were halfway through the season. There was talk that the coach was on the scrap heap and that there were players, not behind the coach. And we saw halfway through that year that they just flicked the switch and what type of team they can be when they do that. Kalen Ponga obviously missed the first half of the season, so having him there for a full year, I think is going to be very advantageous for the Knights next year. They lose Dom Young, but I think they've got another replacement handy in him. But, yeah, I just love the way that the Knights, the back end of the season, the way that they played some exciting footy, and no doubt they're still a very young squad. So I think that they'll be better for the experience of finals, and I think they'll be a great side come next year.
You touched on Dom Young there. He leaves Newcastle and he takes up a spot at the Roosters in their top 30. What did you make of the Roosters season? I mean, they surprised so many people by what they were able to do or die games. They managed to hang in there for so many weeks. Impressive.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the back end of their season was impressive also. They'll get a pass mark for that. The start of the season was punctuated by injuries and suspensions. Look, they just need to get their full-strength side on the park consistently. I think we saw that throughout the year. Sam Walker was dropped, then he was injured. He came back towards the back end of the year and he looked dangerous every time he got the ball, and that combination with Luke Keary looked really well. There's some young forwards coming through that are ones to watch. Terrell May, he was outstanding, and Siwa Wong as well. I guess what do they do with Dominic Young? Swale, he's there as well next year. So they do have a headache in the backs, but I think from where they were to where they got to, I think they can give themselves a pass mark, but they still hold themselves to higher standards. So Trent Robinson would have liked to have obviously been playing this week and next week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just lastly, before we let you go, Josh, after this weekend, when we're chatting next week, what sort of grand final game are we previewing and who's in it?
Well, I think we're previewing the top two sides pretty much all year. I think we're previewing the Broncos and Penrith in a grand final, and it's going to be a super exciting week come next week. But let's just focus on these games and get excited for these games, and I'm sure the players will deliver a great spectacle.
Absolutely. Can't wait for it. Josh Morris will chat last week. Enjoy your footy this weekend.
Thanks, Eloise.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.